Ash is a kind of silence. If you believe fate can be cruel, if you believe love doesn't always arrive gently, and if you believe the quiet ones are usually the most dangerous, then you might want to stay with me. This is Rene's romance stories, and this is the truth I was never meant to tell. Silence doesn't mean peace. It means someone decided your voice was inconvenient. The night house vane fell, the mountains burned blue at the edges. Not fire, magic. The kind that scars stone and lingers long after the screaming stops. I was 9 years old and already old enough to understand that when elders start agreeing too quickly, children don't survive long afterward. My mother shoved a healer's satchel into my hands and told me to run uphill. Never downhill, she said. Water remembers. I remember thinking that was a strange thing to say while she was bleeding out on the floor. I never saw her again. They called it a rogue attack. That word does a lot of work in pack politics. It means no one important is blamed. It means land changes hands quietly. It means the child who lives becomes proof that everything was handled lawfully. I survived because I was useful. I survived because I learned how to stitch wounds without shaking and how to swallow grief without choking. I survived because I learned the difference between being spared and being erased. By the time I reached the Blackridge Mountains, I had 3 rules. Don't bond, don't bleed, and never, under any circumstances, let the Pack Council remember my name. If you've ever trusted the wrong people, if you've ever been silenced so others could stay powerful, if you've ever wondered what you'd become if you finally stopped surviving and started choosing, then stay. Because the mountains remember everything. And so do I. Chapter 1. The Mountain Pack Smells Lies. The Blackridge Mountains don't welcome you. They tolerate you. Like a bone set badly, but left alone because breaking it again would be inconvenient. The air thins as you climb, sharp enough to scrape your lungs raw if you breathe wrong. Pine resin clings to everything. Snow lingers in shadows, even when spring pretends it's brave enough to try. The territory itself feels old. Watching. Judging. I adjust the healer's satchel on my shoulder and keep walking. Blackridge Pack territory rises out of the fog like a warning rather than a promise. Stone structures carved into the mountainside. Iron rails anchoring bridges that sway over nothing but distance. Wolves patrol the ridgelines, their silhouettes still even when the wind howls hard enough to peel skin. No banners, no ceremony. This pack doesn't advertise strength. It assumes it. A sentry stops me at the outer gate. Beta, scarred. Young enough to still believe rules keep you safe. Name, he says. I consider lying, then I sigh. Ilara Vane, healer. His nostrils flare. Not interest, calculation. Pack? He asks. None, I say. By choice. That earns me a look. Half suspicion, half pity. Lone healers are tolerated the way storms are tolerated. You don't invite them, but you prepare for the damage if they settle in. He motions me forward. Inside the main hall, warmth hits first. Fire, bodies, the smell of iron and old stone. Wolves glance up as I pass. Some dismiss me instantly. Others don't. The council does. They sit elevated at the far end of the chamber, arranged in a neat arc, like a row of judges who've never had to bleed for their verdicts. The Blackridge Council wears neutrality like armor. Old wolves, careful eyes, smiles that never reach the bone. One of them, Elder Maven Toll, tilts her head as I approach. "Another healer," she says. "We've had trouble keeping them." I don't ask what happened to the last ones. "I'm good at leaving," I reply mildly. A few counselors stiffen. Humor is rarely appreciated by people used to obedience. Then the room changes. Not sound, not movement. Pressure. I feel it before I see him, the way gravity shifts when something larger enters the equation. Kaelin Frostborn steps into the hall like the mountain itself decided to stand upright. Tall, broad, still. He doesn't wear a crown. He doesn't need to. Authority settles around him naturally, like snow where it belongs. His eyes, steel gray edged with frost, pass over the room once before landing on me. They stop. His nostrils flare. I freeze internally. Don't react. Don't run. Don't explain. He studies me the way a healer studies a wound that shouldn't exist. Careful, quiet, already thinking 3 steps ahead. "You're early," he says to the council, voice calm enough to be dangerous. "We were curious," Brenna Kale replies smoothly. "A lone healer in our territory is unusual." Kaelin's gaze never leaves mine. "So is a lie that smells like truth," he says. Well, that's unfortunate. I lift my chin just enough to be polite, not enough to be submissive. "I heal," I say. "I don't stay." Silence stretches. Then, unexpectedly, his mouth twitches. Not a smile, not quite. "Mountains have a habit of keeping what they need," Kaelin Frostborn says. "You'll be evaluated." There it is. Not a request, not a threat, a statement of fact. I nod once, controlled. "Of course," I say. "I wouldn't want to inconvenience the pack." As I'm escorted deeper into Blackridge territory, my instincts prickle hard enough to ache. The Alpha knows I'm lying. The Council knows I matter. And the mountains? The mountains are waiting. Chapter 2. The Wound That Wasn't an Accident. Blackridge doesn't test healers with words. It uses bodies. They bring him to me just after dusk, 2 warriors half dragging, half carrying a young wolf whose boots leave smeared crescents of blood across the stone floor. He's conscious, which is unfortunate. Pain makes people talk. Fear makes them lie. I kneel before anyone tells me to. Old habits die hard. "Put him down," I say. Slowly. The warriors hesitate. One glances toward the raised platform where the council usually sits, as if expecting permission. That alone tells me this isn't routine. "Now," I repeat, sharper. They comply. The wolf collapses onto his side with a strangled sound, clutching his ribs. His scent hits me immediately. Iron, adrenaline, and something wrong underneath. Something that doesn't belong in a training hall. I open my satchel. "Who did this?" I ask. "Training ring," one warrior answers too quickly. "Misstep." I look up. "Then you should fire your weapons master," I say calmly. "Because ribs don't break inward like this from a fall." A few wolves shift uncomfortably. I focus on the wound. The skin is split just enough to be deceptive. Clean edges. Too clean. Whatever struck him was thin, sharp, and guided. I press gently, watching his pupils. He hisses. "Poison?" I murmur. "No," one of the warriors says. "Just, yes," I interrupt. "Just quiet." I lean closer, breathing in. There it is. Magic residue, faint but unmistakable. Old, bitter, layered carefully so it wouldn't trip alarms. The kind of poison that doesn't kill outright. The kind meant to linger, to weaken, to make a point. My jaw tightens. "Well," I say, reaching for a vial. "Someone hates you personally." The injured wolf lets out a weak laugh that turns into a cough. Figures. I work fast. Too fast. I feel eyes on me before I see him. Kaelin Frostborn stands at the edge of the circle, arms crossed, expression unreadable. He hasn't spoken. He hasn't needed to. His presence presses against my awareness like gravity recalibrating. He watches my hands. I feel it, the moment he realizes this isn't ordinary healing. "This isn't a training injury," he says quietly. "No," I agree. "It's a message." Silence drops heavy. The council hasn't arrived yet. That's notable. Usually they hover when blood is spilled. This time, they're late. Or absent on purpose. I crush dried mountain bark between my fingers and press it into the wound. The poison reacts instantly, sizzling faintly against the salve. The warriors gasp. "Relax," I mutter. "If it screams, it's working." The injured wolf groans as the magic burns away. His breathing steadies. Color creeps back into his face. I tie off the dressing and sit back on my heels. "He'll live," I say. But someone wanted him weak. Slower. Easier to finish later. Kaelin's gaze sharpens, not on the injured wolf, on the hall, on the exits, on me. "Who would do this?" one warrior asks. I wipe my hands on a cloth. "Someone who knows your patrol rotations. Someone who expected a healer who wouldn't notice the difference." Kaelin steps closer. "And you did," he says. "Yes," I reply. "Which means I'm inconvenient." There it is. The first real truth spoken aloud. The council arrives 10 minutes later. Late. Unhurried. Carefully composed. Rene surveys the scene with polite concern. "Unfortunate," he says. "Blackridge training can be rigorous." I meet his eyes. "Rigorous doesn't usually involve blood-laced poison," I say mildly. A flicker. Fast. Gone. "Well," he says smoothly, "we are fortunate you were here." Kaelin turns slowly. "Indeed," he says. Which raises the question, why was she? The council stiffens. I feel the shift in the air, pressure tightening, lines being redrawn. Elder Maven Toll studies me the way one studies a ledger. "Your skills are impressive," she says. "Where did you learn to recognize that compound?" I smile politely. "I healed long enough," I say, "to know when someone wants a body instead of a recovery." That's not an answer. She knows it. Kaelin knows it. The mountains know it. Later, much later, I scrub my hands in the healer's quarters until the water runs cold and my fingers ache. The bondless silence presses in again, familiar and heavy. I lean against the stone sink and exhale. First body, first message, first mistake, mine for noticing. I came here to heal. Instead, I just announced myself to the people who benefit most from quiet deaths. And somewhere deep in the mountain, something shifts. Waiting. Chapter 3. The Night They Tried to Finish It. I should have left. That's the thing about surviving long enough to become cautious. You start collecting should-haves the way other people collect souvenirs. You stack them neatly in your mind, label them, promise yourself you'll listen next time. But Blackridge didn't just give me a warning. It gave me a pattern. And healers are stupid about patterns. We see one and we want to name it, treat it, fix it. We forget that sometimes the pattern is the point. That night, the mountain wind sharpened. It slipped through cracks in the stone like a blade looking for skin. The healers' quarters were tucked against the eastern wall of the main keep, close enough to the infirmary to be useful, far enough from the heart of the pack to be disposable. I'd been given a cot, a small hearth, a basin, and a single iron latch on my door. Blackridge hospitality. I finished boiling my tools, dried my hands, and checked the satchel I kept packed at all times. Bandages, herbs, needles, a vial of my last tincture, rare, bitter, and worth more than most wolves realized. I could leave before dawn. I could vanish into the ridgelines. I could... A knock struck the door. 3 sharp taps. Not a servant, not a warrior. Too controlled. I didn't open it. "Who is it?" I asked. A pause. Then a voice. Female. Older. Smooth as polished bone. "Elder Maven Toll requests your presence," the voice said. "In the council chamber." My stomach tightened. Councils didn't request. They summoned. Using the word request was a courtesy meant to make obedience feel voluntary. I stared at the latch. My hands moved on their own, slipping a small blade from beneath the cot and tucking it into my sleeve. Healers don't carry weapons to hurt. We carry them because dying quietly is an insult. "I'll come," I said. The hallway outside was colder than my room. Torches flickered, throwing shadows that looked too much like wolves, even when no one stood there. The escort didn't walk beside me. She walked behind. Of course she did. The council chamber sat above the main hall, carved into the rock like a wound that never healed. The doors were already open. Warm light spilled out, too inviting. I stepped inside. Rene sat at the center of the arc of chairs, fingers steepled. Counselor Isra watched me like she expected me to break into lies the way most outsiders did when faced with authority. Elder Maven Toll didn't sit. She stood by the tall, narrow window, staring out at the mountain as if it belonged to her personally. Kalen Frostborn was not there, which meant either he'd been excluded or they were doing this on purpose when he couldn't interfere. "Sit, healer," Brennick said. I remained standing. "Why am I here?" "Because you're useful," Isra said bluntly, and Maven's lips twitched like she approved of honesty. "And because you're a problem." I let out a slow breath. That was fast. Brennick's smile was thin. "Blackridge doesn't waste time. You recognized poison today. You spoke of it openly. You made several warriors uncomfortable." "Good," I said. "They should be." Maven turned then, her gaze finally landing fully on me. Her eyes weren't cruel. That would have been simpler. They were precise, like a healer's eyes, like someone who knew exactly where to press to find the pain. "You have old magic in your hands," she said. "Mountain-born healing doesn't behave like that." I kept my face calm. Inside, Everything went very still. "I learned from necessity," I said. "Necessity," Maven echoed, tasting the word. "And what name did necessity give you before you became Ilara Vane?" There it was. Not a question. A blade. The air tightened. I could practically hear the room decide what kind of night this would be. I smiled. Small, polite, controlled. "I've always been Ilara Vane," I said. Brennick's gaze flicked to Isra. A tiny signal. Almost nothing, but I saw it, and my healer instincts flared. This wasn't an interrogation for information. This was a confirmation. They already knew something. They wanted to see if I'd admit it. I didn't. Maven stepped closer, moving without sound. "You came alone," she said. "No pack vouching, no letters of passage, no clan mark. Yet, you know blood-laced compounds used in council wars." Her voice dropped, almost gentle. "You aren't a wandering healer," she murmured. "You're a survivor." I felt my pulse in my throat. I forced myself to speak evenly. "Most healers are." Isra leaned forward, impatient. "Tell us what you are." I let a beat pass, then said softly, "Tired." The silence that followed was not amused. Brennick sighed as if I had disappointed him. "You will remain in Blackridge territory until we decide otherwise." I blinked. "Excuse me?" Maven's expression didn't change. "For your safety." I almost laughed. The sound rose in my chest like a cough. "My safety," I repeated, tasting the lie. Brennick's eyes hardened. "You will be housed in the eastern wing under guard. You will heal when commanded. You will not leave the keep without escort." I felt the iron latch of my room in my mind. One latch, one door. Now a cage. I looked at Maven. "And if I refuse?" Maven's gaze softened, just enough to be terrifying. "Then you will learn what happens to inconvenient healers in the mountains." There it was, not shouted, not dramatized, spoken like a law of nature. I held her stare. Then I nodded once. "Understood," I said quietly. Not because I agreed, because I wanted to live long enough to make them regret saying it. They dismissed me like a servant. An escort returned me through the torchlit halls, footsteps quiet behind mine. The keep was sleeping, but I could feel the tension under its skin, like a pack bracing for a storm. Back in my room, I didn't light the hearth. I sat on the cot in the dark and listened. Wolves think humans fear silence. They don't understand that silence is where I learned to count my enemies. A soft scrape sounded at the window. My spine went rigid. The healer quarters were on the eastern wall, 2 stories up, no balcony, no easy access. Another scrape. I stood slowly, moving with the kind of careful control that only comes from being hunted young. I took one step toward the window, and the air changed. A scent slipped through the crack in the stone. Not pine, not smoke. Something sharp and floral, like crushed winter lilies. My stomach dropped. Poison. My hand went to the latch. Too late. The door swung inward with a smoothness that told me the lock hadn't been forced. It had been opened. 2 figures stepped in, cloaked, faces obscured. One held a lantern turned low, the flame barely breathing. The other held a thin blade, its edge catching the faint light. I swallowed. My voice came out steady. "You're in the wrong room." The one with the blade tilted their head. "No," they said softly. "We're in exactly the right one." I moved, fast. I flipped the basin, sending water splashing across the stone floor. The lantern-bearer stumbled back with a curse. I lunged toward the door. The blade flashed. Pain tore across my side. Not deep, deliberate. Enough to bleed. Enough to deliver what coated the steel. Cold spread instantly, racing through my veins like winter water. My knees buckled. I caught myself on the doorframe, teeth clenched hard enough to crack. The attacker didn't rush me, didn't panic. They waited, like they knew I had seconds, like they'd done this before. I forced myself upright, hand pressed to my wound. The blood was dark, too dark. My vision narrowed at the edges. I tried to breathe through it, tried to reach inward the way healers do, tried to gather my own magic, and felt it. Resistance. A curse. Not meant to kill quickly. Meant to make healing impossible. Meant to leave me aware while my body failed. My mouth went dry. I laughed once, breathless and ugly. Of course. Of course the mountains didn't want me dead quietly. They wanted me dead as a lesson. The attacker stepped closer, blade ready for the final strike. "Should have left," they murmured. My ears rang. My legs shook. I tried to lift my sleeve blade. My hand wouldn't cooperate. The world tilted. And then? The corridor thundered. A door slammed somewhere down the hall. Footsteps, fast, heavy, controlled. A growl rolled through the stone itself, low enough to vibrate in my bones. The attackers froze. So did I. Because I knew that sound. I'd felt it earlier, in the council chamber, in the space where Kaelin Frostborn should have been. A presence that made the air heavier. The door behind them exploded inward. Kaelin filled the frame like a storm given flesh, eyes bright and lethal, hair undone, shoulders squared as if he'd been waiting for this moment his whole life. He took in the scene in one heartbeat. Me against the frame, bleeding. The blade, the poison in the air, the two cloaked wolves. His voice dropped into something that wasn't quite human. "What did you do?" The attacker lunged. Kaelin moved, fast, violent. The first wolf hit the wall hard enough to crack stone. The lantern fell, flame guttering. Shadows leaped. The second wolf turned to run. Kaelin caught them by the throat and slammed them to the floor. The air reeked of fear. He didn't kill them. Not yet. He looked at me instead. And something in his face shifted. Controlled fury, cracking into something raw. Not tenderness. Not romance. Recognition. He crossed to me in 2 strides, hands already at my wound. The poison's cold had reached my ribs now, creeping inward like a promise. "Stay with me," he ordered. I swallowed, throat tight. "Alpha," I rasped. "I'm inconvenient," he finished, eyes locked on mine. "Yes, I noticed." My vision pulsed. I tried to steady myself with humor, because that's what I do when I'm dying. "Tell your council," I whispered. "They can't even assassinate properly. It's—" My breath caught. Pain flared. Then the cold surged, swallowing everything. Kaelin's hands pressed harder against my wound. I felt his power in the air, huge, contained, held back like a fist. He looked down at my blood, then back at my face. I saw the decision form in his eyes. Instant. Absolute. The kind of decision you make when there's only one way left, and it will cost you something you can't afford to lose. No, I breathed, because suddenly I understood. His jaw clenched. Ilara, he said, voice low and steady. I can save you. My heartbeat stuttered. And you'll hate me for how? The room swayed. I didn't have time to answer. I didn't have time to consent. I only had time to live. He leaned in toward my throat. And the last thing I saw before the dark swallowed me was the Alpha's expression. Not possessive, not hungry, just grim. Like a man about to commit a sin in order to keep someone breathing. Chapter 4. Triage is a kind of sin. I come back in pieces. Cold first, then heat, too much of it, flooding my veins like fire poured into ice. The world lurches. Stone presses against my back. Kaylin's hand is at my side, firm, unyielding, exactly where the pain is worst. Stay, he says. Not please, not can you. Stay. The word lands inside me, and something old, something buried, answers. No, I manage, because I've learned that no is a spell all its own. Don't you... His teeth break my skin. Pain detonates. Not the sharp kind that teaches you where you end. This is everywhere at once. A white-hot surge that blows through me and tears down doors I didn't know were locked. My body arches off the stone with a sound I don't recognize as human. The curse screams. It isn't a voice, it's resistance. Threads of magic tightening, recoiling, trying to hold. Kaylin's power crashes into it like an avalanche. The two forces collide inside my blood, and for a heartbeat, I am nothing but a battlefield. Breathe, he orders, inside me. I don't know how I know it's him. I just do. His presence floods my senses. Iron restraint, mountain cold, a steadiness that refuses to panic. His heartbeat thunders against mine, too close, too intimate. I am aware, horribly, vividly aware, of what he's doing. A bond. Not fate, not romance. Triage. My hands claw at the stone. The poison's cold retreats, chased by heat that knits and burns and fixes. The wound at my side sears as flesh pulls together. The curse snaps, threads popping one by one until the pressure in my chest breaks like ice underfoot. Air slams into my lungs. I gasp, hard, greedy. Kaylin pulls back at once, like he's touched flame. He doesn't hold me. He doesn't soothe. He turns his face away and plants his hands on the floor, shoulders rigid. I'm alive. That's the problem. The bond settles with a low, constant hum, present, unignorable. Not claiming, not tender, just there. His awareness brushes mine like a held breath. I swallow, throat raw. Well, I rasp, because if I don't joke, I'll scream. That's one way to introduce yourself. He looks at me then, really looks. Shock flickers, then something heavier. Guilt, sharp enough to cut. You're alive, he says. Obviously, I mutter. I was aiming for dramatic silence, but this will do. Behind us, one of the attackers whimpers. I don't look. I can feel Kaylin's restraint like iron bands tightening. I did not have your consent, he says carefully. I will not pretend otherwise. I turn my head enough to meet his eyes. Did I have another option? His jaw tightens. A fraction. Honest. No. Then don't apologize like you enjoyed it, I say. Apologize like you're going to let me choose what comes next. The Bond hums, steady, listening. He nods once. Sharp, absolute. You will, Kaelin Frostborn says. On my life. The promise settles deeper than the bond. The council arrives in pieces. Boots, voices, the scrape of authority trying to look surprised. Kaelin doesn't give them a speech. He gives them a look that ends conversations before they begin. Take them, he says to his guard, indicating the attackers. Alive. Brenna Kale's voice cuts in, smooth as ever. Alpha, this is highly irregular. So is poisoning a healer, Kaelin replies. Calm. Deadly. So is breaking sanctuary. We'll discuss irregular when I'm finished saving the person you tried to silence. I feel it then. The shift. The pack recalibrating. The mountain leaning in. They move me to the infirmary. I don't remember the walk. I remember the heat of his presence never leaving my side. The way the bond steadies my breathing, even when I want to rip it out by the roots. Seren Vale appears like a miracle, with clean hands. She assesses me without flinching, eyes narrowing at the remnants of the curse. Blood-laced, she murmurs. Layered. Ugly. Council grade, I whisper. Her mouth tightens. She glances at Kaelin. The bond is stabilizing her. I know, he says. Seren's gaze flicks to me. Do you? I do. That's the worst part. When it's quiet, when the room empties and the night presses close, I finally have space to feel it. The bond isn't loud. It's anchored. A shared center of gravity. I can sense his restraint, like a wall I could lean against if I chose. I don't choose. Not yet. He stands at the foot of the bed, arms folded, giving me space like it's a language he learned the hard way. I won't touch you, he says. I won't command you. When you can walk, you're free to go. I laugh weakly. You bonded me to save my life, and now you're worried about manners. I'm worried about you, he says, and there's no alpha weight in it. Just truth. I close my eyes. The mountain settles. The bond hums. Then listen, I say softly. I didn't come here to be owned. I didn't survive to be erased again. Whatever this is, I gesture weakly between us. It doesn't get to decide for me. It won't, he says. I won't. I open my eyes and look at him. Really look. Good, I whisper. Because if you'd taken anything else from me tonight, Alpha, I'd have burned this mountain down from the inside. A corner of his mouth lifts, not a smile. Recognition. I believe you, he says. The infirmary door closes. The mountain exhales. And somewhere, deep beneath the stone, the council realizes their mistake wasn't trying to kill me. It was failing. Chapter 5. Aftermath. Has a pulse. I wake to counting. Not sheep, not breaths. Heartbeats. Mine. Too fast, skittering like it's afraid to settle. And his. Steady. Grounded. Close enough that the rhythm tugs at me, whether I want it to or not. The bond hums between us, low and persistent. Not loud, not intrusive, just there. Like gravity pretending it's optional. I open my eyes. Stone ceiling, infirmary beams. The mountains smell, pine smoke, iron, old snow, threads through everything. My side aches in a way that tells me the wound has closed, but the memory hasn't forgiven it. Kaelin Frostborn sits in a chair pulled deliberately far from my bed. Not looming, not guarding. Watching. "How long was I out?" I ask. He answers immediately. 6 hours. Of course he knows. Any complications? I try to keep my voice clinical. Healers ask questions so they don't have to ask the ones that hurt. "The poison is gone," he says. "The curse, broken. Saren confirms no residual thread." Good. I should feel relieved. Instead, I feel crowded. Not by him, by us. I shift, testing my side. Pain flares, manageable. My fingers brush the bandage and there it is again. The awareness. His attention sharpens the instant I move, not as control, but reflex. I scowl at the ceiling. "You're hovering." "I'm seated," he replies mildly. "Internally," I clarify. "You're hovering internally." A beat. Then, faintly, amusement brushes the bond. Not laughter. A pressure release. "Apologies," he says. "I'll step back." The sensation eases. Not gone, just less. Huh. So that's how this works. Saren slips in before I can poke at the discovery. She carries a tray and the expression of someone who has already decided she's not impressed by alpha drama. "You're awake," she says briskly. "Good. Drink this." I sniff the cup. "Is it bitter?" "Yes." "Does it taste like regret?" "Also yes." I drink. She checks my pupils, my pulse, my side. Professional. Efficient. When she's satisfied, she straightens and fixes Kaelin with a look sharp enough to cauterize. "Council's convened," she says. "They want explanations." Kaelin stands. "They'll get boundaries." Saren snorts. "Good luck with that." After she leaves, silence stretches again. But it's different now. Charged. Expectant. "I should go," I say, even though standing feels ambitious. Before they decide to finish what they started. "You won't be leaving the infirmary," Kaelin replies. Not a command. A fact. Not tonight. I turn my head slowly. "Alpha?" He meets my gaze evenly. "Ilara." We hold there, 2 lines drawn, neither crossing. Then he exhales. "The attackers were council adjacent," he says. "Not officially sanctioned. Plausible deniability, if you're fond of that sort of cowardice." "I'm not," I say. "But they are." "They used poison keyed to disrupt healer magic," he continues. "Which means someone expected you to try to save yourself." I swallow. They didn't expect me to be saved. His jaw tightens. The bond answers with a thrum. Anger, tightly leashed. "They miscalculated," he says. "About you," I reply. "Or me." "Yes," he says, without humor. A knock interrupts us. 2 short raps, controlled. Rene enters with the confidence of a man who thinks time will smooth this over. "Alpha," he begins, gaze flicking to me. "We're relieved the healer survived." I smile faintly. Touched. His lips thin. This incident is regrettable, he says. But passions ran high. The mountain is tense. We should be careful not to frame this as an accident. Kalen finishes. His voice is calm. The temperature drops anyway. You attempted to silence a healer under my protection. Under your protection? Brennick echoes. She arrived unvouched and left alive, Kalen says, which is now my concern. The bond tightens, not ownership, alignment. Brennick's eyes flicker, calculation reshuffling. We're convening the council at dawn, he says. You and the healer will attend. I speak before Kalen can. I'm not fit to stand. Brennick smiles. Then you'll sit. Kalen's gaze turns glacial. She will not be paraded. Alpha, Brennick cautions. The council governs at my consent, Kalen cuts in, which you are testing. Silence slams down like a dropped blade. Brennick inclines his head. At dawn, he repeats, if she's able. He leaves. I release a breath I didn't realize I was holding. Well, I murmur, that went well. Kalen's mouth twitches. Recognition again. They're afraid now, he says. Of you. Good, I reply softly. Fear makes people honest. I shift, pushing myself upright. The room tilts, then steadies, helped, I realize, by the bond lending balance like a quiet hand at my back. I pause. Then, deliberately, I straighten on my own. Kalen notices. Of course he does. You're learning, he says. So are you, I reply. You didn't tell them I'm bonded. No, he says. That's your truth to reveal. I study him, really study him, and find no lie waiting. Thank you, I say, surprised at how much I mean it. He nods once. Outside, the mountain wind rises. Dawn creeps closer. And with it, a council that will learn exactly what happens when you try to kill a healer and accidentally give her an alpha instead. Chapter 6. Council at Dawn. Dawn in the Blackridge Mountains isn't gentle. It doesn't soften edges or warm the cold out of stone. It exposes things, cracks in rock, blood in snow, truths people hoped night would keep quiet. By the time Serene helps me dress, the bond has settled into something almost orderly. Still present, still humming, but no longer screaming for attention like an open wound. That's a good sign, Serene says, tightening the wrap at my side. Means your body's accepting the shared core. I snort softly. My body makes questionable decisions under stress. Her mouth quirks. Most bodies do. Try not to bleed on the council floor. It upsets the elders. Duly noted. Kalen waits outside the infirmary doors, not hovering, not distant, positioned like a man who understands sightlines and politics equally well. When his eyes find me upright, dressed, breathing without assistance, something eases in him that the bond translates instantly. Relief. I pretend not to notice. He pretends not to project it. We walk together through the keep. Wolves pause as we pass. Some bow their heads. Others stare, noses flaring, catching the altered scent between us. Bonded. Not claimed. Not announced. But undeniable. The council chamber is already full when we enter. Brennick Hale sits centered, hands folded, expression set to concerned authority. Isra Kaur watches me with open dislike. Maven Toll's gaze is the most dangerous, sharp, curious, measuring what I cost versus what I might be worth. Kalen stops beside the Alpha's chair. I do not sit behind him. I take the seat reserved for witnesses. It's a small thing. It lands like a blade. This council convenes to address last night's incident, Brennick begins. An unfortunate breach of internal discipline. An assassination attempt, I say. Silence snaps tight. Brennick's eyes flick to me. Healer, Ilara Vane, I correct. Calm, steady. You may use my name if you're going to discuss my blood. A ripple moves through the chamber. Not outrage, interest. Kalen doesn't intervene. Good. Brennick exhales slowly. Very well. Ilara, you were attacked by 2 wolves acting without sanction. Using council-grade poison, I reply. Keyed to suppress healer magic. Delivered with intent to incapacitate, not kill immediately. I meet Isra's gaze. That level of preparation doesn't happen in a vacuum. Isra's lip curls. You accuse the council without proof. No, I say. I diagnose. A murmur rises. Maven leans forward. You survived, she says softly, thanks to extraordinary intervention. Yes, I agree. I did. Her eyes flick, just once, to Kalen. And that intervention came at a cost, she continues. A forced bond is no small matter. The word forced lands heavy. I feel Kalen's restraint tighten, ready. I raise my hand. I'll speak to that, I say. The room stills. I did not consent to the bond. I continue evenly. Because I was dying. Consent requires time. I had minutes. I let that settle. The Alpha acted to preserve my life when no other option remained, I say. If the council wishes to debate ethics, I suggest starting with why a healer needed saving in the first place. Isra scoffs. You arrived unvouched. You disrupted order. You made yourself visible. I finish. Yes, that was my mistake. Brennick's smile returns, thin and patronizing. And perhaps now you understand the importance of council oversight. I lean forward, ignoring the twinge in my side. Oh, I do, I say softly. Which is why I brought this. I reach into my satchel, still at my side, still ignored by men who underestimate healers, and remove a small, sealed vial. Gasps ripple as I set it on the stone. Residual poison from my wound, I explain. You'll find the signature matches the compound used on the injured warrior 2 nights ago. And if you test it, I look directly at Brennick, you'll find it traces back to stores authorized by this council. The chamber erupts. Brennick rises halfway from his seat. This is evidence, I cut in. Bodies don't lie. Blood remembers. Maven studies the vial, her expression unreadable. Kalen finally speaks. Blackridge will not be governed by men who hide behind assassins, he says. His voice is calm, absolute. We will investigate fully. Until then, certain council powers are suspended. Isra stands. You overreach. I am the reach, Kalen replies. You are the habit. The bond hums, approval, alignment, resolve. I sit back, heart pounding, and let the mountain witness what it's waited centuries to see. A council exposed, an alpha choosing truth, and a healer who refuses to die quietly. As the chamber descends into argument and outrage, one thought settles deep and unshakable. They tried to erase me. Instead, they gave me a voice. Chapter 7. The Truth Has a Scent. The council chamber empties the way battlefields do. Slowly, carefully, with everyone pretending they aren't wounded. By the time the last elder stalks out, the air tastes scorched. Anger, fear, old power realizing it may finally be outmatched. The Blackridge Mountains hold the silence like a held breath. Kaelin doesn't move. Neither do I. The bond hums between us, steadier now, like a low note sustained beneath everything else. Not demanding, not claiming. Present. "You shouldn't have done that alone," he says quietly, once the guards sealed the doors. I glance at him. "You mean the part where I challenged half your council with a vial and a pulse?" "Yes," he replies without hesitation. I huff. "Noted. Next time I'll bring charts." A flicker of amusement brushes the bond before he reins it in. "You're bleeding again," he says. I look down. Of course I am. The bandage at my side has darkened, slow and stubborn. Nothing dramatic, just my body reminding me that heroics still have consequences. "I'll live," I say. "That's not the standard I'm aiming for," he replies. He gestures toward the side door. "Come," before they decide outrage is easier with an audience. We move through the keep together, not touching, not separate either. Wolves watch us openly now, no pretense. Heads bow, whispers ripple. They can smell it. Not the bond exactly, most won't recognize that without confirmation. But the change. The alignment. The way Kaelin's presence curves subtly toward mine, like a mountain shifting to shelter something fragile and dangerous. Back in the infirmary, Serene closes the door with a sharp click. "Well," she says, eyeing us both. "That was educational." "You should see their faces," I mutter, easing onto the bed. Serene retightens my bandage with practiced efficiency. I have, many times. They usually look like that right before someone disappears. Her eyes meet mine meaningfully. "Yes," I say. "I know." Kaelin's jaw tightens. Serene finishes, then straightens. "I'll want you resting today. No council chambers. No heroics." I make no promises. She snorts. "I'll leave you two to whatever this is." She leaves. Silence settles again, but not the empty kind. Kaelin leans against the far wall, arms folded. He doesn't approach, doesn't retreat. "You didn't deny it," I say eventually. "Deny what?" "The implication," I clarify. "That I'm more than a wandering healer." His gaze sharpens. "Do you want me to?" The question lands carefully. No pressure, no expectation. I consider the ceiling. "I want you to know why they're afraid," I say finally, "and why they'll keep trying." He nods once. "Then tell me." I close my eyes. "I'm not just House Vane by name," I say. "I'm blood. Last living. The council signed the land transfer the night my pack burned." The bond spikes. Anger, sudden and lethal, locked down hard. "They erased us for territory," I continue. "They kept me alive because a survivor makes theft look lawful. Then they spent years making sure I never became inconvenient." I open my eyes and look at him. "I came here to disappear because if they ever confirmed who I was, Killing me would become necessary. Kaelin pushes off the wall. Slowly. Deliberately. They already confirmed it, he says. Last night. I know. He stops a few feet away, close enough now that the bond tightens, attentive. They won't stop, he says. No, I agree. They'll just get smarter. He studies me, then nods, decisions settling like armor. Then we stop pretending this is about healing injuries, he says. We treat the disease. A chill runs through me, not fear, anticipation. And what does treatment look like? I ask. His mouth curves slightly. Exposure. Removal. Structural change. I smile despite myself. You sound like a healer. I've been watching you, he says. You're persuasive. The bond hums. Approval. Alignment. Something warmer beneath the steel. I exhale slowly. All right, Alpha, I say. But if we do this, we do it clean. No secret executions. No buried bodies. His gaze holds mine. Steady. Respectful. Agreed, he says. The mountain doesn't need more ghosts. A pause. Then quieter. And the bond? I consider the hum between us. The way it steadies my breathing. The way it doesn't push unless I do. For now, I say carefully, it stays what it is. Triage. Truce. Temporary. He inclines his head. On your terms. Good. Outside, the wind rises again, carrying scent through the keep. Snowmelt, iron, something new stirring beneath the stone. Change. The council may not know it yet, but the mountain does. Chapter 8. What the Mountain Keeps. Blackridge doesn't explode into chaos after the council session. That would have been easier. Instead, it tightens. By midday, the keep moves with careful precision. Guards doubled at the gates, patrols rerouted, messengers sent and recalled. Wolves speak in low voices, eyes tracking me openly now, no longer pretending I'm invisible. I sit in the infirmary, pretending not to notice. Rene pretends with me. You've officially become a problem, she says, handing me a cup of broth that smells like boiled roots and spite. I was hoping to ease into it, I reply. Maybe offend one elder at a time? She snorts. Too late. You offended the concept of authority. Progress. The bond hums softly as I sip. Kaelin is elsewhere, meeting with captains, securing loyalty, cutting off the council's more creative options. I can feel his focus through the bond like a taut line pulled tight. Not worried. Preparing. When the door opens again, it isn't Rene. It's Maven Toll. She steps inside, alone, unannounced, wrapped in dark wool that smells faintly of old parchment and smoke. No guards, no posturing. That alone is dangerous. Rene stiffens. I lift a hand. It's fine, I say quietly. I'd like to hear what she has to say. Rene hesitates, then leaves, casting Maven a look that promises consequences. Maven studies me for a long moment. You heal well, she says. I had good teachers, I reply. Yes, she murmurs. You did. She takes a seat across from me without invitation. The council underestimated you. I hear that's a recurring problem. Her mouth twitches despite herself. You survived because you learned restraint, she continues, because you understood when to stay quiet. I survived because I didn't have a choice, I correct. Staying quiet was never virtue. It was triage. Her gaze sharpens. You sound like your mother. The bond flares, heat, anger, grief, before I can stop it. Maven notices. Interesting. They burned her alive, I say softly, in case he were wondering how that memory aged. Maven exhales slowly. I argued against it. I laugh, once, bitter. Congratulations. Silence stretches, heavy with what she didn't say. I'm not here to threaten you, she says finally, or to bargain. No? I ask. That makes you the minority. I'm here because the mountain doesn't like lies, she says, and it's restless. I tilt my head. Is that council wisdom or personal superstition? Experience, she replies. Blackridge was built on borrowed ground. Everyone knew it. We told ourselves survival justified it. And now? I ask. Now, she says, meeting my eyes, the debt has come due. The bond hums, not approval, not anger, recognition. I won't protect them, Maven says. Not if Kaelin moves openly. I study her face, searching for the familiar shapes of manipulation. I find none. Why tell me? I ask. Because you're the one they tried to kill, she replies simply. And because when the reckoning comes, I want it to be remembered that not all of us chose silence. I nod once. That will matter, I say. Later. She rises. One more thing, she adds. The bond. I stiffen. It will change you, she says quietly. Not immediately, not visibly, but it will alter how others respond to you. Wolves follow gravity. I'm aware, I reply. I just didn't plan on becoming it. She pauses at the door. None of us ever do, she says. Until the mountain decides. When she's gone, I sit very still. The bond hums, not louder, heavier. By evening, the first consequence arrives. A young Omega healer, barely grown, hands shaking, slips into the infirmary with a folded scrap of parchment. They told me to give this to you, she whispers. Who? I ask. She glances toward the council wing. Someone important. I unfold the note. 3 words, written in careful script. You are remembered. My throat tightens. That night, when Kaelin returns, I don't greet him with humor. They're signaling, I say instead. I know, he replies. They're testing who reaches for you. And who reaches for you, I add. His jaw tightens. Yes. The bond settles between us, no longer just triage, a line, a choice. Outside, the mountain wind carries scent across the keep. Fear, loyalty, and something new threading through it all. Hope. Not the fragile kind. The dangerous kind that makes people decide where they stand. Chapter 9. The Body That Told the Truth. The mountain doesn't whisper its secrets. It leaves them where you'll trip over them. The call comes just before dawn, boots pounding the infirmary steps, breath sharp with cold and panic. Serene doesn't bother knocking. She pushes the door open with her shoulder, eyes already assessing me like I'm a tool she needs intact. "We've got a body," she says. "Lower switchback. Patrol found him half an hour ago." "Alive?" I ask. She shakes her head once. I swing my legs off the bed. Pain flares, familiar and manageable. The bond hums in quiet agreement, steady, not reckless. Kalen isn't here yet, but I feel him wake as I stand, awareness sharpening like a blade drawn from a sheath. "Counsel?" I ask. Serene snorts. "They're calling it exposure." Of course they are. We move fast, cloaks, lanterns, breath fogging the air as the keep yields us to the mountain. Wolves step aside without comment. No one stops us. No one wants to be the one who interfered with a healer when the mountain is restless. The body lies where the path narrows, stone dropping away into dark nothing on one side. Snow dusts his shoulders. Blood stains the rock beneath him in a pattern too deliberate to be accidental. I kneel before anyone speaks. The bond tightens, alert, focused, without pulling me off balance. "Who found him?" I ask. "A scout," someone answers. "Said he slipped." I look at the hands, fingers curled inward, nails broken. "No," I say softly. "He crawled." Serene crouches beside me, lantern low. "Throat?" I shake my head. "Later." I press 2 fingers to the man's neck, cold, rigid, gone long enough for the mountain to start claiming him back. "What's his name?" I ask. A pause, then, reluctantly, "Roven, Council Courier." Well, that escalated quickly. I open his cloak. The cut at his side is narrow, precise, too precise for a fall. The blood around it has that same wrong sheen I saw days ago. Layered, intentional. "Poison," Serene murmurs. "Yes," I say, "but not the same compound." I lean closer, breathing in. The scent threads together in my mind. Winter lily, ash resin, something mineral and old. "Why change it?" Serene asks. "Because this one kills faster," I reply, "and because they didn't expect a healer to be allowed near him." I reach for my satchel. A ripple moves through the watching wolves as I cut fabric, expose skin, trace the path of damage with practiced calm. The bond hums, approval, alignment. Kalen's attention sliding into place without a word. He arrives as I confirm what I already know. The snow crunches behind me. His presence settles the air. "What did they do?" he asks quietly. I don't look up. "They silenced him." "Why?" "Because he was carrying something," I say, slipping gloved fingers into the inner pocket of the courier's coat. Paper crackles. I draw out a sealed packet. The wax bears a council mark. Brennix. Unbroken. I hold it up. Because he hadn't delivered it yet. Kalen exhales slowly. "Open it." I do. Inside is a ledger page. Names, dates, routes. Transfers disguised as patrol reallocations. Supplies moved off books. Payments logged in a hand that learned caution late. My stomach tightens. "This isn't just Blackridge," I say. "This is regional. They're coordinating." "With whom?" he asks. I flip the page. My finger stops. "House Vane lands," I say quietly. "All of them. Leased, traded, bled dry. Every movement logged like a grocery list." The bond spikes. Anger, sudden and cold. "They were cleaning the trail," Kaelin says. Yes, I reply, and he tripped. Serene looks between us. What do you want to do? I close the packet, seal it back into my satchel. We do what healers do, I say. We let the body speak. Kaelin nods once. Bring him in. The keep wakes fully when we return. Word spreads faster than fire in dry pine. A courier dead. Evidence found. A healer confirming what the council denied. By the time I finish my report, clean, clinical, undeniable, wolves are lining the hallways. Not chanting, not shouting, watching, choosing. Brennick arrives last, outrage worn like a tailored coat. This is an abuse of process, he declares. The Alpha does not, the Alpha does. Kaelin interrupts, calm as snowfall. And the healer confirms. Brennick turns to me, smile brittle. You're tired, Ilara. Perhaps you misinterpreted. I meet his gaze. Blood remembers, I say. And so does paper. I lay the ledger page on the stone. The room goes very still. Kaelin steps forward. Until a full inquiry concludes, council operations are suspended. All records sealed. All movements logged. Isra surges to her feet. You can't! I already have, he replies. The bond hums, not triumph, resolve. Later, when the keep settles into a wary quiet, I stand at the infirmary window and watch dawn creep over the ridgeline. My side aches. My hands smell faintly of iron, no matter how much I wash them. Kaelin joins me, stopping at a respectful distance. You okay? He asks. I consider the question. They killed him to protect a lie, I say. That lie is rotting. Yes, he agrees. And if we keep going, I add, they'll try again. He doesn't hesitate. Then we'll keep going. I nod. Outside, the mountain holds the light like a promise it intends to keep. Chapter 10. What survives the cut? The mountain goes quiet in the way a room does after a verdict. Not peaceful, expectant. Blackridge adjusts around us, guards reassigned, routes tightened, council doors closed under Alpha seal. Wolves don't speak much. They don't need to. Scent carries what words won't. Fear where certainty used to live. Resolve where obedience once did. I spend the morning in the infirmary because that's where the truth keeps washing up. 2 injured patrol wolves come in before noon. Scrapes, a cracked wrist, nerves frayed thin. Nothing dramatic. Everything telling. They avoid eye contact when they mention where they were sent last night. Their stories line up too neatly. Who set the route? I ask, while binding a wrist. The younger one hesitates. I don't look up. I'm not the council. A breath, then, Counselor Isra's office. There it is. By midday, Serene brings me tea and a look that says she's already decided I'm going to ignore her instructions. You're pushing, she says. I'm treating, I reply. Different thing. She snorts. You're provoking. I sip. Also different. The bond hums, a steady pressure that isn't approval so much as readiness. Kaelin is moving through the keep, checking captains, locking down stores. I feel it when he pauses, when he decides, when he chooses restraint over spectacle. It's unsettling how much I can sense. It's worse how quickly it feels normal. By afternoon, the first request arrives. Not a summons, not a threat. A folded note, delivered by a runner who can't quite meet my eyes. May we speak? YK. Isra Kaur doesn't come to the infirmary. Pride won't allow it. I don't go to the council wing. Principal won't allow that. We meet in the old records room instead, the one no one uses because the shelves sag and the dust remembers too much. She's already there when I arrive, standing between rows of ledgers like a woman measuring exits. Ilara, she says, carefully neutral. Counselor, I reply. For now. Her mouth tightens. You're enjoying this. I set my satchel down. No, I'm enduring it. She studies me. You could stop. I laugh quietly. You don't believe that. I believe the alpha is influenced, she says. The bond complicates judgment. Ah. There it is, I say. Blame the bond, not the bodies. Her eyes flash. You think you're untouchable now? I meet her gaze. No, I think I'm visible. That lands. She exhales. What do you want? The question is almost honest. Truth, I say, and for you to stop pretending this ends without blood if you keep pushing. Her shoulders sag a fraction. You're tearing apart a system that kept this pack alive. No, I correct. I'm treating an infection you've been feeding for decades. Silence stretches. Finally, she says, if Brennick falls, others will follow. Yes, I agree. That's how gravity works. She closes her eyes. When she opens them, the calculation is gone, replaced by something like fear. He has contingencies, she says. Caches, safe routes, people loyal enough to burn evidence and witnesses. My pulse ticks up. Names. She hesitates. I lean in, voice low. He already killed a courier. He already tried to kill me. The next step is escalation. You can either be on the side that survives or the side that's remembered. The bond hums, quiet, steady. Kaylin listening without listening. Isra swallows. I'll give you a starting point, she says. One cache, one name. That's not enough, I reply. It's all I can give without signing my own death warrant. I consider her for a long moment. Then I nod. Start there. She writes quickly, tears the page free, and leaves without another word. When I return to the infirmary, Kaylin is waiting. You got something, he says. Yes. He doesn't ask how, or from whom. Good. We spread the map on the table. Mountain lines, switchbacks, old tunnels scratched in the margins by hands long dead. The name Isra gave me sits like a bruise on the page. Tonight, Kaylin says. Not a question. Tonight, I agree. Before they move it. He studies me. You're not going. I arch a brow. Try again. You're still healing. And I'm still the one who can tell you what matters when you get there, I reply. I don't fight. I identify. The bond tightens, not dominance. Worry. I won't lose you, he says quietly. I soften, just a little. Then don't. Keep me standing. Let me do my job. He holds my gaze, then nods once. Decision made. As dusk bleeds into the mountains, we prepare without ceremony. No speeches, no banners, just wolves choosing to act. When the gates open and cold air pours in, I pause on the threshold. This is the point where survival usually tells me to run. Instead, I step forward. The mountain doesn't resist. It makes room. Chapter 11. The Cache Under the Switchback. Night in the Blackridge Mountains doesn't fall. It settles, like a verdict you didn't appeal in time. The patrol moves without torches, wolves in human skin slipping through familiar paths with the ease of long practice. Snow crunches softly underfoot, then stops as we reach stone. Breath fogs and fades. The world narrows to scent and sound. I walk in the middle, not protected, not hidden. Present. The bond hums. Kaylin's awareness, a steady line at my back. Not pulling, not steering. Just there. Like a hand hovering close enough to catch me if I slip. "Switchbacks ahead," murmurs a scout. I nod. My eyes track the rock face. Wrong angles, a shadow where the snow doesn't settle. The faint metallic tang under pine and ice. "There," I whisper. "Hear that?" They pause. At first it sounds like wind. Then, metal. A breath of it. Like old hinges that learn to stay quiet. "Cache," Kaylin says. We move fast then. Controlled. 2 wolves peel off to cover the ridge. Another drops to a knee and works the stone seam with practiced fingers. The panel gives with a sigh. Inside, crates, ledgers, vials wrapped in oilcloth, a smell that makes my teeth ache. "Blood magic," I murmur. Old, stabilized. Kaylin's jaw tightens. "Take everything." Hands move. Crates open. Names spill out. Routes, payments, marks I recognize too well. House Vane lands listed like inventory. Dates that align with raids that were never called raids. I reach for a vial and stop. "No," I say sharply. "Don't touch that one." Kaylin freezes mid-motion. "Why?" "It's keyed," I say, "to a healer's signature. If it breaks—" I swallow. "It won't just kill the person holding it." Silence snaps taut. "Then we seal it," he says. "Carefully." We do. Layered cloth, wax, a steadying breath I didn't know I was holding. A scrape sounds above us, too light for a wolf, too careful. "Contact," someone breathes. The night fractures. A crossbow twangs. Stone chips spray. Wolves surge. I duck instinctively as Kaylin moves, fast, decisive, intercepting a blade meant for my shoulder and disarming its owner with a brutal economy that leaves no room for doubt. I don't scream. I count. 1 attacker down, another fleeing, a third, too slow, caught by the ridge team and dragged into the open. Rene steps into the lantern glow like he expected applause. "You're thorough," he says mildly, eyes flicking to the crates. "I wondered how long it would take." Kaylin's voice is calm enough to frost stone. "You killed a courier." Brennick smiles. "I protected a system." I step forward before Kaylin can stop me. "You tried to kill a healer," I say. "Twice." Brennick's gaze sharpens. "You were collateral." "No," I reply. "I was proof." He looks at the sealed vials, the ledgers, the wolves holding him at blade point. Something shifts, calculations rebalancing. "You don't understand what you're dismantling," he says. "Those records keep worse things from happening." I tilt my head. They kept worse things happening quietly. He scoffs. You think this ends without blood? I meet his eyes, steady. It already had blood. You just didn't like whose. Kaelin steps in, presence filling the space. Bind him. As the guards move, Brennick's composure cracks. You'll fracture the region, he snarls. Packs will turn. Then they'll choose, Kaelin replies. Like we did. Brennick laughs as they drag him away. You're making enemies. I watch the lantern light swallow him. We already had them. We seal the cache, take everything, leave nothing but cold stone and the mountain's memory. On the walk back, the bond eases, adrenaline bleeding out, replaced by a quiet that feels earned. At the gate, I stop. Kaelin turns. You held, he says. So did you. His mouth twitches. You identified. Someone had to, I reply. Inside the keep, as the night gives way to a thin, pale dawn, I realize something else. Something my healer instincts whisper before my mind catches up. The bond has changed. Not louder. Deeper. And for the first time since the fire that took my mother, I'm not bracing for the mountain to take something from me. I'm wondering what it might give back. Chapter 12. What the Mountain Demands. Payment comes due at dawn. Not in coin, not in blood, in witnesses. Blackridge wakes to the kind of morning that pretends nothing has changed. Frost rims the railings. Smoke curls from chimneys. Wolves report for duty, with heads down and eyes sharp. Routine is how packs survive upheaval. Routine is also how truth slips in. They bring Brennick Hale through the central hall at first light, bound, unbowed, still wearing that careful smile like it might save him. Word spreads faster than any bell. Wolves line the upper galleries, quiet as snow before an avalanche. I stand beside the infirmary doors and watch. Not because I'm required to be there, because healers attend endings. Kaelin doesn't sit the alpha's chair. He stands. That matters. This isn't a council session, he says, voice carrying without effort. It's an accounting. Brennick laughs. You think parading me will calm them? Kaelin's gaze doesn't move. No, it will inform them. I step forward when he nods. My cue, not a command. The murmurs rise as I cross the floor. Some wolves bow their heads. Others stiffen. A few look relieved, like they've been waiting for permission to breathe. I set the sealed ledger on the stone table. The sound echoes. This courier died carrying this, I say. Poisoned. Left on a switchback to be called exposure. I open the ledger. Names spill out like old wounds reopening. Routes, payments, dates that align with fires, with disappearances, with packs that were unfortunate enough to lose land at convenient times. I don't editorialize. I diagnose. Council-grade compounds, I continue. Blood magic stabilized for transport. Healer suppression agents used to silence witnesses. These records map a pattern of theft disguised as governance. Brennick's smile thins. You're interpreting. I lift a vial from my satchel. This is interpretation-free. Gasps ripple as the wax seal catches the light. This compound was used on me, I say, and on a Blackridge warrior 2 nights earlier. Same signature, same supplier. Authorized by council stores. I meet Isra Kaur's eyes in the crowd. She looks away. Why show them this? Brennick asks, too smooth. You'll fracture the pack. I look at him. Fractures heal. Rot spreads. Kaelin steps forward. The council's authority is suspended pending full review. Interim governance falls to the Alpha and captains. A murmur. Fear, then something like relief. Brennick's composure finally cracks. You're handing them chaos. No, Kaelin replies. I'm handing them daylight. The guards move. As Brennick is taken, he twists toward me, eyes bright with a last, sharp calculation. You think this makes you safe? I hold his gaze. It makes me done. When the hall empties, it leaves a different silence behind, one that feels cleaned, not stripped. Kaelin finds me at the window overlooking the eastern ridge. The bond hums softly, a shared exhale. You didn't have to do that, he says. I did, I reply. Bodies don't lie, but they need translators. He nods. The region will react. Yes, I say, and some of them will react badly. A pause. Wind presses against the glass. I'll increase protections, he says. I know. Another pause, closer this time. Ilara, he says quietly. About the bond. I know, I interrupt gently. It's still triage. He accepts that without argument. That, too, matters. Later, when the keep settles and the mountain's restlessness eases, I sit alone and take my pulse out of habit. It's steady, stronger than it was, and beneath it, something subtle. A warmth that isn't the bond's echo. I still my breath. Count again. The realization lands not with panic, but with a careful, unmistakable certainty. Healers know their bodies. Whatever the mountain demands next, I think, one hand resting at my middle, it won't be only mine to answer. Chapter 13. Fallout has a shape. The fallout doesn't come as fire. It comes as silence. Blackridge wakes into a day that looks normal if you don't know how to read it. Guards posted where they weren't before, messengers moving in pairs, captains speaking in murmurs instead of commands. Wolves don't argue. They assess. They smell fear, and something else threading through it. Possibility. I feel it from the infirmary window, the mountain breathing differently now that the council's spine has been cracked. The bond hums at a low, steady register. Kaelin awake, moving, choosing restraint where others would reach for spectacle. My body, however, has other ideas. The nausea hits mid-morning, sharp and sudden enough to make me grip the edge of the table. I close my eyes, breathe, count. One surge doesn't mean anything. Blood loss recovery can do strange things. Stress can do stranger. I've lectured apprentices on this very topic. Still. I don't finish the tea Rene brings me. That's new, she observes, too casually. Different blend, I lie. She raises a brow. It's the same bark we've used all week. I sip again to prove a point. Regret it immediately. Rene's eyes narrow, not alarmed, just alert. Healer alert. The kind that files information away instead of panicking. Sit, she says. I am sitting. Sit like you plan to stay upright. I comply. She checks my pulse, my pupils, the healing line at my side. Everything looks fine. Too fine. Could be delayed shock, she says, mostly to herself. Or the mountain is trying to kill me again. I finish lightly. She snorts. If it were, it wouldn't be subtle. We share a look. File it away. By noon, the first messenger arrives from the southern ridge, breathless, respectful, eyes flicking to me like he's measuring a story against a person. Alpha, he says to Kaylin, who's just stepped in. Word from Redwater. They've expressed concern. Concern, Kaylin repeats. Yes, about instability at Blackridge. I lean back against the counter. That's code for who's in charge now. The messenger blinks. Yes, ma'am. Kaylin's mouth twitches. Tell them Blackridge is stable. Governance is under review. And if they press? Tell them to wait, he says. Mountains don't rush. The messenger leaves. The afternoon brings more of the same. Polite inquiries, veiled warnings, captains reporting loyalty with eyes that say, we'll see. The bond stays steady through it all. Kaylin's calm, a constant weight that keeps the day from tipping into chaos. My body does not share his discipline. By evening, the nausea returns, gentler, persistent. A warmth settles low in my abdomen, unfamiliar and attentive. Not pain, not illness. Change. I retreat to the infirmary stores under the pretense of inventory. Rene follows, quiet as a thought. You're not sick, she says. I freeze. You don't know that. I do, she replies. You're aware. That's different. I close my eyes. The truth presses closer now, undeniable as a pulse under fingertips. I don't want to know yet, I say softly. Rene nods, understanding in her bones. Then we won't name it. Not tonight. Not tonight, she agrees. When Kaylin finds me later, it's on the eastern balcony, dusk bleeding the mountains purple and gold. He stops a respectful distance away, the bond warming but not crowding. The region is watching, he says. Some will test us. I know. And you? He asks. The question lands carefully, not probing, not protective, just aware. I don't answer right away. Below us, the pack settles into evening rhythms. Doors closing, patrols shifting, voices low and thoughtful. Fallout doesn't always explode. Sometimes it reshapes quietly, testing what will hold. I'm steady, I say at last. Kaylin studies me, eyes searching for cracks instead of drama. That's not what I meant, he says. I huff a quiet breath. I know. The bond hums between us, not tight, not demanding. Listening. I feel the pressure, I continue. From outside, from inside, from all the places that don't like unanswered questions. And? He prompts gently. And I'm still here, I say. Still choosing to stand where I am. The wind rises, tugging at my cloak. I brace a hand on the stone railing, grounding myself. For a moment, my other hand drifts instinctively toward my middle. Subtle, unconscious. Not pain. Awareness. I still it before he can read too much into the motion. Kaylin notices anyway. He always does. His expression shifts, not alarmed, not demanding, just attentive. You don't have to carry anything alone, he says quietly. I meet his gaze. I know. That answer holds more than one meaning. He doesn't press, doesn't ask the question forming behind his eyes. Instead, he nods once, slow and deliberate. Then we'll take this one step at a time, he says. Yes, I agree. We will. The mountain exhales around us, not restless now, but watchful, as if it's waiting to see whether what's been exposed will collapse or become something stronger. Tomorrow, the region will start asking harder questions. Tomorrow, pressure will turn strategic. But tonight, the fallout settles into shape. And for the first time, I don't feel the urge to run from it. Chapter 14. Pressure finds the fault lines. The region doesn't test us with violence. That would be honest. Instead, it sends emissaries. They arrive before noon the next day, 3 wolves in tailored coats, scents scrubbed and polite, smiles practiced down to the bone. They bring gifts, wine from Redwater's southern slopes, a formal letter sealed in wax, a tone that says, "We're here to help." I stay in the infirmary on purpose. If they're here to undermine Kaylin, they'll try to do it without me in the room. If they're here to use me, they'll come find me anyway. They choose the second. Rene intercepts them at the door, eyes cool. She's resting. "We won't take long," the tallest says smoothly. "This concerns her." Rene looks to me. I nod once. 5 minutes. They step inside like men used to rooms rearranging themselves around their expectations. The tallest bows shallowly. "Ilara Vane," he says. "We come representing Redwater Pack. We admire your resilience." I arch a brow. "I admire your restraint. You didn't open with condolences." A flicker. Then the smile resets. "We're concerned about the forced bond," he says gently. "Such arrangements can cloud judgment, particularly an alpha's." There it is. I fold my arms. "You're suggesting Kaylin can't govern because he saved my life." "We're suggesting," another adds, "that the bond could be reconsidered." I laugh before I can stop myself. Not loud, not cruel, just incredulous. "You want me to what?" I ask. "Disappear?" They exchange a look. "Relocate," the tallest says. "Temporarily. Somewhere neutral, until tempers cool." "And in exchange?" I ask. "Protection," he replies. "Comfort, discretion." I meet his eyes. "You mean silence?" His smile tightens. "Stability." I lean in, voice low and clear. Stability built on removing women who make men uncomfortable is not stability. It's rot. The room goes very still. "You're placing your alpha in a difficult position," the second emissary says. "Packs are already questioning whether Blackridge will bend." I finish. "It won't." They leave shortly after, gifts untouched, courtesy frayed at the edges. I find Kaylin in the training hall an hour later, stripping off gloves, jaw tight. He already knows. "They came to you," he says. "Yes." He waits. "They suggested I leave," I add, "for your good." A muscle jumps in his jaw. The bond tightens. Anger checked hard. "I won't have you moved like a liability," he says. "I know," I reply. "But listen." He does, always. "They're not testing your strength," I say. "They're testing your transparency. They want you to choose control over trust." His shoulders ease a fraction. And you? I want you to choose daylight, I say. Say what happened. Say why. Don't let them write the story. He considers that, eyes distant. They'll use the bond, he says. Yes, I agree. And if you hide it, they'll use that too. A long breath. Then we don't hide, he says. We explain. The decision settles through the bond like stone placed carefully, irrevocably. That evening, Kaelin addresses the pack from the central hall, not with ceremony, but with facts. He names the attempted assassination, the forced bond, the investigation underway. He does not romanticize it. He does not soften the truth. He ends with a single line. Ilara Vane remains here by choice, as do I. The hall doesn't erupt. It steadies. Later, when the keep quiets and the mountain exhales, I stand alone in the infirmary and press my hand to my middle, feeling that subtle warmth again, persistent now, undeniable. Pressure always finds the fault lines. Tonight, it didn't break us. It showed us where we're strongest. Chapter 15. Confirmation. Healers know before the tests do. We feel the quiet rearranging, the way the body starts negotiating for the future without asking permission. I'd been pretending it was stress or recovery or the mountain's idea of irony. By morning, denial stops working. Serene doesn't say good morning. She says, sit, and closes the door with care. I already am, I reply, because humor is easier than fear. Sit like you plan to listen. I do. She takes my hands, warm, steady, unflinching, and studies my eyes, my pulse, the way my breathing shifts when I'm not paying attention. How late? She asks. Not late, I say quietly. Just present. Her mouth softens. That's what I thought. The test is quick, clean, definitive. I don't cry. I don't laugh. I just sit there while the truth settles into my bones, heavy and precise. Serene squeezes my fingers. It's early, strong. You're healthy. And the bond? I ask. It didn't cause this, she says gently. But it didn't stop it either. Of course it didn't. The bond never decided for me. It only made space. I nod once. No one knows. Not unless you want them to, she replies. Your body, your story. Thank you. She studies my face. Do you want me to tell the Alpha? I shake my head. Not yet. Understanding flickers. She steps back, professional again. Rest, eat. No heroics. I make no promises. She snorts. Then at least make careful ones. I leave the infirmary with the truth tucked under my ribs, like a secret heartbeat. The mountain looks different now. Still sharp, still cold, but no longer indifferent. Everything feels oriented. Kaelin finds me on the eastern path that afternoon, where the wind smells like thaw and old stone. He keeps pace without crowding, the bond attentive but quiet. You're thinking loudly, he says. Am I? I ask. Yes, he replies. About something important. I stop walking. He stops too. I could tell him then. The words are there, ready, waiting to change everything. Instead, I take a breath and choose honesty without confession. I'm confirming something, I say. About my body. Concern tightens, not into panic, not into command, into stillness. Kaylin doesn't reach for me, doesn't ask the question hovering between us like a held breath. He simply watches, present in the way that leaves room instead of filling it. Do you want me to worry? He asks quietly. Or wait? The bond hums, gentle, attentive. No pressure, no pull. Wait, I say. He nods once. Then I'll wait. We stand there while the light thins over the ridgeline, the mountain holding its silence like it understands what's being negotiated. I press my palms to the stone railing, grounding myself in the cold, the solid, the now. I'm not in danger, I add. Not the kind you're thinking. His jaw eases. Chapter 16. What we choose. Kaylin doesn't ask the obvious question. That's how I know he's afraid. We stand on the eastern path where the mountain slopes away into cold distance, wind threading between us like it's listening. The bond hums, alert, contained, giving nothing away, asking for nothing. Do you want me to wait? He asks instead. The restraint in it almost breaks me. Yes, I say honestly, but not because I don't trust you. He nods once, accepts that without flinching. Then I'll wait. Silence stretches, not awkward, not empty. Shared. I turn back toward the keep because if I look at him any longer, I might say everything before I'm ready. We walk side by side, not touching, the bond a quiet line drawn carefully between us. That night, the mountain tests us again. Not with blades or poison, those are crude now, but with rumor. Whispers reach the keep by candlelight. Redwater's captains concerned. Northern packs monitoring the situation. A suggestion that Blackridge's alpha has become compromised. By dawn, it reaches the gates. A formal delegation. 2 alphas, 1 demand. They don't ask to see me. They ask Kaylin to choose. I watch from the upper gallery as they stand in the central hall, cloaks dusted with travel, authority worn like armor. Their scents carry certainty. This is how it's done. This is how it's always been. We respect your strength, one says. But forced bonds destabilize leadership. Remove the variable, and this ends cleanly. Variable. I lean on the railing, fingers curling into stone. Kaylin doesn't raise his voice. He doesn't posture. He simply says, Ilara is not a variable. She is a person. A ripple moves through the watching wolves. She's the reason your council fell, the second alpha presses. No, Kaylin replies. They fell because they killed to keep power. Silence tightens. Then choose, the first alpha says. Your pack, or her. I descend the steps before Kaylin can answer. The hall shifts as I walk forward. Wolves turn, backs straighten. The mountain seems to lean in. This isn't his choice, I say. My voice carries, calm, unafraid. It's mine. The visiting alphas stiffen. I'm staying, I continue. Not because of the bond, not because of protection. Because I choose this pack, and this pack has chosen daylight over rot. One of them scoffs. You think choice outweighs tradition? I meet his gaze. I think tradition that can't survive choice deserves to end. The bond hums, warm, steady. Kaylin doesn't stop me. He doesn't step in front of me. He lets me stand. That's your answer, Kaylin says quietly. If you've come to measure my leadership, measure this. The delegation leaves without ceremony. The hall exhales. Later, in the quiet that follows courage, Kaelin finds me where the keep meets the mountain. Stone warm from late sun, the world hushed and wide. You didn't have to do that, he says. I did, I reply. Because if I'm staying, it's on my feet. He studies me, something unguarded in his eyes. Whatever you're carrying, he says gently, whatever you decide, I'm here. Not because of the bond, because I choose you. The words settle, not heavy, not binding. Chosen. I close my eyes, one hand drifting unconsciously to my middle. Not yet. Soon. Then, I say softly, opening my eyes, when I tell you, you'll understand why this matters. He nods. When you're ready. The mountain holds us there, wind curling like a promise it intends to keep. Chapter 17. What Cannot Be Undone. The mountain chooses a clear morning for reckoning. No fog to hide behind, no storm to blame. Just pale sun on stone and the sound of boots echoing through the keep like a count that's run out. They bring the remaining conspirators at midday, 3 counselors, 2 captains, and a clerk who thought ink made him invisible. Chains aren't necessary. The weight in the room does the work for them. I stand where witnesses stand, not elevated, not hidden. Kaelin stands beside me, not in front of me, his presence steady, unflinching. The bond hums like a held note, quiet and ready. This is not a trial, Kaelin says, voice carrying without strain. It's a reckoning. Rene looks smaller than he did in the mountains, less sure. The others avoid my eyes. I breathe once, deep. Then I step forward. I'm not here to ask for punishment, I say. I'm here to end a pattern. A murmur ripples. Some wolves frown, others lean in. You stole land, I continue. You silenced witnesses. You used poison meant to keep healers from healing. You hid murder under paperwork and called it order. I don't raise my voice. I don't need to. House Vane was erased for territory, I say. And you told yourselves the child who lived made it lawful. Brennick sneers. You survived because of us. I meet his gaze. I survived despite you. The bond warms, approval, steady and contained. I lift the ledger. Pages whisper as I turn them. Names read aloud have a way of becoming real. Every transfer here is reversed, Kaelin says. Effective immediately. Lands return to their rightful packs. Compensation is drawn from council reserves. Isra Kaur stiffens. You'll bankrupt. We'll rebuild. Kaelin cuts in. Without blood. I step closer to Brennick, close enough that he can see there's no rage left in me to bargain with. You don't get to decide what survives, I say quietly. You only get to decide whether you face daylight. The guards move. As they're taken away, the hall doesn't erupt. It settles, like something dislocated, snapping back into place. Later, after orders are written and captains dispatched and the keep exhales into a new kind of quiet, I ask Kaelin for the chamber. Alone. He doesn't ask why. He closes the doors and waits. I stand in the center of the room, hands steady at my sides. The mountain feels close here. listening the way it always does when truth is about to change the shape of things. I didn't tell you before, I say, because I needed to know this wasn't built on fear. He doesn't move. It isn't. I nod. Then I place my hand over my middle. Not dramatic, not fragile, just honest. I'm pregnant. The bond flares. Not sharp, not possessive. Awe. Shock. A fierce, reverent stillness that steals the air from my lungs. He crosses the distance in 2 careful steps and stops, close enough to feel, far enough to ask without words. "May I?" he says. "Yes," I reply. His hand settles over mine, warm and steady. He closes his eyes, just for a moment, as if committing something sacred to memory. "I won't cage this," he says softly. "I won't use it. I won't rush you." "I know," I say. He opens his eyes, and there it is, the break in his control, small and human and devastating. "We choose this," he says. "Yes," I answer. "We do." Outside, the mountain keeps its silence, not indifferent now, but satisfied. Because some things, once named in daylight, cannot be undone. Epilogue. What the mountain keeps. Time moves differently in the Blackridge Mountains after truth settles. Not slower, just truer. Winter loosens its grip without ceremony. Snow retreats from ledges. The eastern paths soften enough to carry footsteps without protest. Where the council chambers once hummed with secrets, there's now the steady sound of work. Ledgers rewritten, routes reassigned. Captains arguing openly instead of whispering. I open the healer sanctuary at the old overlook, where stone arches catch the morning light, and the wind carries pain away faster than words ever could. Wolves come from 3 territories, some injured, some wary, some just curious to see if the stories are real. They are. I heal what can be healed. I document what can't. And I refuse to let anyone disappear quietly again. Kalen visits without announcement, never interrupting. Sometimes he brings reports, sometimes he brings tea and says nothing at all. The bond between us no longer hums like triage. It breathes. By late spring, there's no hiding what my body is doing. The warmth at my middle is no longer subtle. Wolves bow, not to me, but to the future they can smell coming. I don't correct them. I don't encourage it either. Power grows best when it isn't forced. One evening, as the sun bleeds gold across the ridgeline, Kalen joins me at the sanctuary steps. He doesn't touch me at first. He waits. Always. "Are you ready?" he asks. I consider the question, not just the moment, but everything behind it. "Yes," I say. We reaffirm the bond at dawn the next day. No spectacle, no crowd. Just the mountain, the vow, and a choice made without fear pressing at its back. Later, when the keep wakes and the work resumes, I stand at the window and watch the paths fill. Wolves moving freely, openly, without flinching at shadows. The mountain keeps many things. It keeps scars. It keeps memory. And now, finally, it keeps us. If you stayed with me through blood and truth, through silence broken and bonds remade, thank you. This was Rene's Romance Stories, And if you believe that survival should lead to choice, if you believe love should arrive with respect, and if you believe the quiet ones change everything, stay. There are more stories the mountain hasn't finished telling yet.